All right, now we're looking at practice problem number 3. In this case, it says the risk levels on bonds relative to other assets increases, and we want to see what happens in the bond market. So for this one, what I'm going to do, again, start with a demand curve and a supply curve, so something like this, where I have initial equilibrium, call it P1. This time, risk levels relative to other assets increase. So I need to remember that risk is linked to demand. So investors care about risk. And in this case, if risk goes up, that's an undesirable feature for bonds. Just increases the chance of, say, default, not getting paid. So that means investors' demand for these bonds should decrease. If they decrease, what I do is I take that demand curve and I shift it to the left. And as it shifts to the left here, what that does is indicate a decrease in the demand by investors. Then I find my new equilibrium price where that new demand curve intersects the supply curve, and then go across here on the vertical axis and indicate my new price. So I would say in this case the price looks like it falls or goes down, just because P2 is clearly lower than P1. In this case, it's also asking about the interest rate or yield. So attached to each one of these prices, you can always assume there's some sort of implicit interest rate or yield. The easiest way to remember this is that the yield always goes in the opposite direction. So if price falls, then we would say the yield is going to rise. All right, so once I find the direction of the price movement, just as always assume that the interest rate or the yield moves in the opposite direction.